Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a Caribbean Cricket Podcast special. I'm in the corner of the screen for this one, which is rather weird because this special is about the special women on the screen right now. Big up Barbados women. Whilst the West Indies are letting us down, we can rely on one team in the region to big us up and make us feel proud, and that is Barbados women. I'll just quickly take them off the screen for a second because, ladies and gents, obviously it's the 2022 Commonwealth Games. Barbados are the West Indian or Caribbean representatives for the cricket competition. There's only 8 teams involved, and Barbados, by virtue of being the 2019 T20 Blaze champions, were picked as the team to represent the Caribbean in the Commonwealth Games. And as I record this after one round of games in their group, they currently lead their group from Australia in second place. Who did Australia beat? India in third place and Pakistan in fourth place. And for those who did not watch, Barbados played yesterday at the time of this recording and defeated Pakistan by 15 runs. Now, before that game had played, I had got in touch with the one and only Ayana Holder and said to Ayana, come on, you're going to have to come on. And we wanted to do this episode before Barbados played, but actually it's worked out well because we agreed that we'd do it after the first game, probably both of us hoping that Barbados won that first game to make this episode even a better episode to talk about the prospects of Barbados women. Of course, tomorrow, which will be Sunday, the 31st of July, they will play Australia. Yeah, okay. We know what we know what Australia are all about. But on Wednesday, the 3rd of August, they will play India. The chances are that will likely be a kind of shootout to decide who goes through. But you never know. You never know. This Barbados team has already done their own nation proud and the region proud with their historic win yesterday. But without any further ado, I always have so many of you saying, why do you never have Ayana on more regularly? I know people, I know. Listen, this Caribbean Cricket Podcast thing gets so busy sometimes. But anyways, Ayana is actually in St. Kitts right now, ahead of the second and the third T20. So let me bring her on. Let's chat to Ayana and let's see what she's got to say. Miss Ayana Holder, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Just taking in some off time now.
I'm surprised you got any off time. I've seen you in Guyana, I've seen you in Trinidad, and now as things stand, you're in St. Kitts. And actually, Ayana, before we even get into Barbados women and their exploits, because some people were like, what do you mean she's in Guyana, Trinidad, and St. Kitts? I don't know how much you want to tell the people, but clearly you are following the West Indies around in some capacity.
Yes, I'm working with the broadcasting here for this series, the summer tour, and it has been a very good experience. I'm floor manager, so it's been a bit of an eye opener to be this close to the action. My perspective has changed about certain things, but that's a conversation for another time.
God, that just as well you said another time, because that was immediately going to be the question. That's going to be the question I asked you straight away. I was going to say, if you're that close to the action, I guess similar to when I was that close to the action when they played Netherlands in June, it changed my perspective of certain things as well. But you know what, Ayana, because you said that, when this series is over, you're coming back on the show. We're going to talk about that different perspective that you've got about certain things, because I do believe the closer you get to the action, the more you become aware of certain things, so we'll leave that for another episode at another time. But this particular special that we wanted to do, Ayana, as I kind of said at the top of the show, was about Barbados women. And I don't want to talk too much on this one because you are the best person to speak to on this, not just because you're from Barbados, but obviously your knowledge of women's cricket as a whole. So first things first, it's such a cliched question, but it's the necessary question to ask. How did you feel about that performance versus Pakistan yesterday?
To be honest, I didn't actually get to watch the game, but I was following on my phone, following cricket phone on my phone, just keeping up with the score, and noted that Barbados had been going pretty steady. I know at about 5.6 runs and over, and I said, well, if we can get to 140, the game, I think that we're in for a good chance with the bowling attack that we have. So when I saw the result, I was really happy for them. I was a bit sad that I didn't get to watch the game and actually witness it, behind the screen. But duty calls, and that's just how it goes. For the Barbadian fans, I think, persons are really happy. The last time Barbados had a team at the Commonwealth Games were the guys like in the late 1990s,
Mm.
and to see this young group of women represent our country, being in a place like Pakistan, where there's, well, I mean, like Barbados only has 280, 90,000 persons, and Pakistan, you're talking millions of people. So I think that for somewhere as small as we are, it was really a proud moment for us.
Yeah, most definitely, and I think it's important. And obviously, I don't know who's going to be watching this episode, but I think it's important to stress for people possibly outside of the region as well that as Caribbean people, when we know that there's only one group of people that's representing the region, we just all get behind them. So as and seeing Hayley Matthews and I'm going to call it her team, their celebrations at the end of the match, you could tell that it meant a lot and I don't. It's not about seeking to look for a division here, but it was more special than just the West Indies winning. That was a nation. That was a nation being victorious. And as Ayana says, Barbados isn't a big place.
Exactly,
It is
yeah.
not a big country, and I don't think people fully on I don't think some people fully understand the magnitude of that victory.
After,
And
yeah.
I think people might look at Ayana, well, they've got Hayley Matthews and they've got Deandra Dottin, and yeah, that's notwithstanding. I'm doing a disservice by not mentioning some other players in that team who have obviously represented the West Indies. But those will be the two names that everyone will look at and go, well, of course Barbados should have won. But it's not Barbados weren't favourites. They they weren't favourites. It's not the West Indies team. It was Barbados. But what did you? Let's look at the not the selection of the 11, Ayana, but the selection of the squad. Do you believe that they took the best squad they could? Because you're closer to knowing uh, who the possibilities were for selection. Did they take the best squad? Are there some players missing you thought should have got a look in?
I think they took the best available squad. There's some young girls in there, Shay and Shantae Carrington, Aaliyah Williams, um, Tiffany Tarr. She they study overseas and play cricket as well. They're on cricket scholarships, and I think that they really complement the seniors in the squad, the West Indies girls, and it really shows what is possible with reasonable resources put into the women's game. And you know, with the amount of opportunities available in sport these days, you
Mm.
need to utilize the opportunities available. And I think that they've selected the best squad, a mixture of experience and youth, and that experience will really help some of the young girls. Young Ayana Holder, she was the captain of the under 19 girls at the original competition, so I know that that will be a major moment for her to play alongside Haley Matthews and company.
Yeah, and I think to give people a bit of context, women's and let's say age group cricket has only just returned. Like I think people need to understand, like prior to the West Indies team going to the World Cup earlier this year, they only had camps really and truly to get ready for that World Cup. Yes, we had some bilateral series versus Pakistan and South Africa, but there was no domestic cricket going on. The domestic competitions, the T20 competition which was won by Jamaica against Barbados in the
Yeah.
final, and then the 50 over competition, which Barbados won. That has only just returned this year. The age group competition has only just returned this year. So to put this Barbados performance in context, it's not like there was a lot of prep to get ready for this. And again, looking at some of the names, so I'm going to call some names for you, Ayana, and I just wonder if you look at some of these names and think you'd like to see them get a West Indies first team, not the A team, but the first team call up in time. So someone like a Shanika Bruce, or an Aaliyah Elaine. Are those players who you feel are deserving in the near future of West Indies call ups?
Yeah, I think Shanika Bruce, I have done some games with her, and she has a lot of potential. I think she maybe sometimes may fall a little bit under the radar behind the senior players, but I think that she's definitely a player for the future. Aliyah Aline, still pretty new to the international stage, and I expect that she will feature heavily for West Indies going forward. I don't think that we've seen the best of her batting ability.
Hmm.
She has bowled a lot for the West Indies and Barbados, but she's also a very talented batter as well. And I think that in because we're going to soon see a transition
Hmm.
between some of the senior players and the younger players. For example, Haley Matthews taking over from Stephanie Taylor. The girls they're getting older, and we're going to step into that new chapter, and a lot of these younger girls will become mainstays in the side.
What was quite interesting in the game, though, the Pakistan game, is I was. I mean, obviously, I started watching it after the West Indies men's game finished. I switched over to watch Barbados, and it was, I think Barbados were about the 12th over of the match when I properly started watching it. And online, there was a bit of criticism about Casey Knight's innings, and I thought she actually held the innings
Together.
together well. But I think there was a tiny bit of criticism that she wasn't hitting at a faster rate. But I don't know. I just thought Casey played the right innings given the context of the match. Or is she somebody that you'd like to see add a bit more acceleration to her game, so to speak?
I think context is necessary because she was batting with Haley Matthews. Haley
Mm,
Matthews, who will show a bit more aggression, and in that partnership, she just needed to rotate, hand it over to Haley. Haley will be the person to go after and try to get fours and sixes. And even after Haley got out,
mm,
Kaisia started to show some
open up.
innovation as well and opened
Yeah.
up and really got some boundaries. I think that her innings was a very mature one,
Mm,
because she understood her role and continued that after Haley got out. I think it was a very good innings, and the senior players will definitely have a lot on their shoulders in this competition, especially the batters, because a lot is expected of them.
mm,
They have the international experience, and if they don't perform, the chances of Barbados making a competitive total become, a little uncertain. So I was really pleased with Casey's innings, and after all, it's women's cricket. You see more flat boundaries in women's cricket than maximums.
mm. What do you make of Barbados's decision to open with Deandra and Haley? And this is similar to a conversation that we kind of had around the World Cup when West Indies were essentially stacking their top 3 and 4 with the best 3 players in Deandra, Haley, and Stefani, and that's always been a kind of question mark about the West Indies approach. Well, we got to the semi-final, but that's always been a question mark about the West Indies approach of making our team so top heavy. And I was a bit surprised, but then maybe I'm asking you because maybe I'm being naive about it, but I was a bit surprised that they didn't split Deandra and Haley simply for the reason of, and it happened versus Pakistan. Deandra got out early, a couple of the big shots, then out. And then all of a sudden, my argument is that then puts pressure on Haley to have to marshal the rest of the innings. Now, obviously, Haley could have got out, and it could have put pressure on Deandra to have to marshal the rest of the innings. And I just wonder where you stand on it. Is that the best way to utilize Deandra and Haley, or would you split them?
I personally am not a fan of Deandra opening
Mm,
because I think that her power in the depth could really be dangerous to other teams. I understand the foundation that she can lay as well if
mm,
she gets off to a flare. But with the experience of Sam Kaisia, Kaishona, and even young Aliyah Aline, she opens the batting for the Irish Walker Pioneers in the Barbados Cricket Association competition.
mm.
They are all candidates for that opening position, and means in the first match DeAndre didn't get off to a flare, but if they continue, maybe it will work, maybe it won't. But personally, I'm not a fan because there are other options.
Yeah. And then if we turn to the bowling, now up front, I thought the bowling was really good. There was a lot of swing on offer, both from Shanika Bruce, Shamila Connell, Connell even. They were getting it almost was, and don't laugh, but it almost was as if it was almost as if Corey Collymore would be like, "This is how you swing the ball in England." That's how much swing they were getting on offer, and it was reminding me of Corey Collymore in England. And I don't think that's much of a stretch to say that Corey has probably had an impact in transferring how you get the ball to swing in these conditions. And up front, I think Pakistan at one point were 49 for four after about 10 or 11, might even mean 12 overs, to the point where I think I tweeted, well, this game is done. Like, there's no way Pakistan have a chance from here. And then obviously, wasn't who was it? Dar was it Dar?
Yeah.
Nida Dar, yes, at the end, played a fantastic innings, but at the same time, Barbados women kind of lost their head a bit at the end to the point where Haley had to turn to Deandra, and I'm not sure that would necessarily. I'm not sure if they necessarily want to use Deandra to bowl, or if it's Deandra saying to Haley, "This game's getting out of control. Give me the ball to try and bring back some control to proceedings." Did that worry you? Their performance at the back end, or do you think they just got a bit excited that the finishing line was near?
After all, it's cricket that you're playing, and cricket is the game of glorious uncertainty. So you can't really take anything for granted. And obviously, it's something to learn from. Deandra missed the regional competition due to advice from the medical panel to rest a bit because
Mm,
I guess her shoulder is still probably giving, well, not giving issues, but they probably just want to manage her workload to
mm,
avoid any future injury. So Barbados management will want to bear in mind that they don't really want to leave it to further down. And the challenge is going to get a bit tougher as we go
mhm.
forward. Australia and India, two games that we obviously must win to go further or hope that some of the other results go our way. So I think that some of the lessons to take from that, so try to close it out earlier and don't really give the opposition a chance to get back into the game. The fielding was great as well. So I think that they just have
Yeah.
to improve on those things in their upcoming matches.
And then, I mean, Australia notwithstanding, and even India notwithstanding, we hope that Barbados can pick up at least one win from those two games to qualify through to the next stage. But if we can for a bit look wider, let's look beyond this tournament. So Barbados go home at whichever stage of the tournament they go home. They're probably greeted with a bit of fanfare because at the end of the day they've made history and so on and so forth, irrespective of what happens versus Australia and India. What impact would you like to see this have on the game back in Barbados? So, what would you like to see? Never mind West Indies for a minute. Let's just talk in Barbados. So, how would you like the BCA to build on this? Because there would have been plenty of Barbadians who would have watched this game and plenty of celebration that they'd done the country proud and so on and so forth. But there's one thing to celebrate, and there's one thing to say well done to the team, and then there's another to then build on the sustainability of that, and I guess make the game more accessible and provide more opportunities. So from your perspective, what would you like to see in an ideal world in terms of the BCA build on this success?
I would really love to see the Barbados Cricket Association, in partnership with the Sports Council and Ministry of Education, build programs in primary and secondary schools for girls. There really isn't a clear pathway for young girls to get into cricket, and I think that it has hampered the pool a bit. There are girls out there who would like to play cricket, but some don't know the way to get involved. It isn't like you go to school and you just play cricket, or you may have some girls at schools where cricket isn't, the boys don't even really participate in cricket because we have some schools where the cricket program isn't that healthy. So I
Mm.
would really love for some action between those three parties to get young girls playing cricket. It just has to start with like some softball. You could play a mixed cricket, but we need to provide the outlet for girls to participate and not leave it just up to a choice for someone to make a call to ask a question of where do I go if I want to play cricket, but know that it is in their neighborhood or is at their school for them to get involved.
I mean, you can't put it any more perfectly than that. I mean, again, there will be people that will listen to this, and you would have heard Ayana say you can't leave it up to people to make the call themselves to find out where they can play cricket, and that's the issue. From what you said there to me, you might as well have said that for Jamaica. You might as well have said that for Trinidad, and that is not different in any other. Well, no, some territories will say they do a bit better, but that I would argue is a challenge for every territory, because what tends to happen in situations like this is we look at what happened after we won the 2016 World Cup. Big celebration, and then what? nothing nothing was done to really build on the fact that the team had won the 2016 World Cup, which then led to everybody asking the question 5 years later at the next World Cup, or 6 years later at the next World Cup, what happened to West Indies women cricket? Well, because there were no investment in anything, so of course nothing happened. So the challenge is clear, and I hope that the key stakeholders, both in Barbados and around the region, don't use this to say, look how well we're doing, and use it as a challenge to now make some more improvements. Um, would you agree with that, Ayana?
Definitely, because this year we're having the 60 and the Caribbean Premier League. The women
Mm,
will be participating for the first time. And I think that that is a huge thing because they're now getting the opportunity to play more matches as well as earn some
mm,
more for it. And I mean that's going to be like really big for young girls. They will be telling themselves, I can do that as well.
mm.
I can be a Haley, I can be a Deandra, I can play cricket and live a like good life. I
Yeah,
don't think we appreciate the power of sport and seeing it as an actual profession now and not just a pastime. And those girls, I mean, there's still the conversation about pay and stuff like that.
mm-hmm.
So I think we really need to take it seriously and less talk and more action.
One. There's the line. Less talk and more action. There's the line. So I mean, both myself and Ayana will be locked in to see how Barbados go over. I mean, the Australia match will be the toughest one. Australia are expected to obviously win the goal, win the competition, etc., etc. So we know that will be tough. But we urge anybody who's interested in not just Barbados women, but I guess women's cricket in the region in general. Tune in, watch, and get behind a team that is playing with a lot of heart and giving it their all. It was so exciting to see their performance against Pakistan, and we hope they can repeat that versus Australia and or India as well. Ayana, before I let you go, we wanted to talk about Barbados women, but because you're in St. Kitts, we must talk about West Indies as well before you go. I'm going to leave it short and sweet for you, though. What do you think they need to change going into St. Kitts? So you don't have to say anything controversial here. If you were in charge, having seen the team playing, well, admittedly those were ODIs, but Guyana and Trinidad, etc., and with your knowledge of cricket in general, what would you like to see change? Probably, let's say, personnel-wise, ahead of Game 2 and Game 3, if any changes.
Well, it's tough to make changes in particular because I think that it comes down to execution.
Mm-hmm.
The opposition is obviously a bit more challenging than the Bangladesh opposition, and I think that they just need to try to cover the basics first. We had a very good start in that first game, but towards the back end of the innings, I think they got a little complacent. And then the death overs, I mean, DK he just blasted and finished. I mean, that's what India is expecting of him. But from a West Indies perspective, we expect our bowlers in the death to really restrict and try to get wickets to contain the batters from scoring so many runs. And I think that 190 from the position that India were in was just a bit too much. So West Indies just need to, just try to execute. Don't think about it too much and control their side of the game.
Are we saying the same for the batting as well?
The batting I thought was just a bit of an experiment. I always thought 190 was going to be a challenge on the surface because it was a little slow on holding a bit. And India had 3 spinners. And then Holder at 3. Hetmeyer coming so late. I think that they need to think about that as well. Don't think this is the time to experiment. If anything, you need to put concrete plans in place, and then if that doesn't work, then you change it. I don't think Holder at 3 is a concrete plan, especially just coming back into the game. Puran, Powell, they were playing cricket all season so far, really, so I think that was just a big gamble. I don't expect to see it happen again.
It's just as well you said you don't expect to see it happen again. Like, you don't think that they'll do the exact same thing for the next match. And listen, Ayana's right. I don't expect to see it happen again, but this is the West Indies, so anything can happen, people. And don't be surprised if what you think shouldn't happen actually does happen. But Ayana, I want to say thank you for coming on. Let's touch base again, one at the end of the Commonwealth games, at whatever stage Barbados go out. But also, let's touch base. Are you going to Jamaica and obviously Barbados? But are you going to Jamaica for the New Zealand? Right. So let's touch base at the end of the summer, when those games are finished versus New Zealand as well. Because I'd love to get your what I'm going to call kind of ringside view of the summer. And I think you will have a very interesting insight to give in terms of, well, just everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly from a ringside point of view. And obviously, we already respect your views anyway on the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. So let's touch base again after New Zealand, Ayana, and thank you so much for coming on.
Yes, thanks. Anytime. Looking forward to it.
No worries. Ladies and gents, that's been another Caribbean Cricket Podcast special. Make sure you like, subscribe, tune in at all times. Thank you and good night.
We rule the cricket world. Now the rules seem coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.